Here we have a question from Lola from Texas. I want to stop collecting rent checks and cashing them. Is it safe to use Venmo to collect rent? Very good question, Lola. We have a couple of articles that address this, and the short answer is no. We don't recommend collecting rent on Venmo or Zelle or PayPal or any other peer-to-peer payment platform. And the reasons that we recommend against doing that are that sometimes there are actually fees associated. So if you have a business account, for example, and you're a business entity that an individual is paying, then usually they will, PayPal, I know, for example, will charge a transaction fee on that. And that would be something that you would pay, not the renter. And with PayPal and Venmo, the funds also go directly into their accounts, the accounts that you hold on those platforms. So any of these electronic transactions do take time. And that's something that you can look at when you're choosing a rent collection platform, is how long does it take? But generally an ACH, clearinghouse, or an EFT, an electronic funds transfer, the acronym, both of those acronyms mean the same thing. They take 1 to 3 days, sometimes a little longer, and usually it's at least 3 in my experience. I don't think that's generally as long with a Zelle or PayPal or Venmo, but you have 2 steps in the process here because you then have to move the money to your account. So it doesn't land there on the day or 2 days right after rent collection, and you have to affect that. You have to make it happen. There's no way to set up automatic recurring payments. Your tenants can't set those up, and you can't kind of set up a requirement for that the way you can in the rent payment or property management software platforms. PayRent is a partner of ours, by the way. One doesn't need to have a full service, full featured property management software platform that you use. There are lots of a la carte, so PayRent focuses around the issues on collecting rent. That's really their focus, and they do a great job with it, including late fees and reminders and all that type of thing, which you can't do through these peer-to-peer services. You also can't block partial payments. And this is important when you get into a situation where you've initiated eviction proceedings, where you accept any amount of a payment. If you accept a partial payment, any amount, it will set the clock back. You have to start the whole process over again. So most of these software solutions that we recommend allow you to stop payments, basically keep payments from happening, from processing, or set it to yes or no, accepting partial payments. And you can't do that with these peer-to-peer services. Some have a maximum transfer amount. For example, Zelle has, I think, a cap of $1,500 a day. So where that's not enough to cover the month's rent, then you have to get the tenants to go back and do it twice, and then you have to deal with it twice and remind them, potentially. There are some cases in which tenants are able to reverse charges. And to be honest, I'm not clear on what the conditions have to be or which platforms that affect, but there are consumer protections that exist there for not just renters, but for people who are purchasing items using these platforms, where there's a form of insurance where you can get money back in certain situations if something untoward has happened, but you wouldn't want people to be able to pull their money back. So a few cases, although I don't think that these peer-to-peer platforms require it. People used to send a tenant to the bank with their bank account and routing number to say, okay, set up a transfer here with that. And obviously that's a very bad idea. You don't want people having that information, but the property management software gets you around that. Payment user IDs on these can be kind of confusing. Am I Eli123 or am I Eli-123? And if I'm Eli123 and my tenant starts sending payments to Eli-123, I may be out of luck because the tenant has paid, but not me. So I have had to be really careful about this. So yeah, just to reiterate, lots of different ways of doing this online. Most of them are free, and we recommend you get set up on a service of your liking that allows you to set your rent, set the reminders, set the late fees to be automatically charged if you want to do that. You can then tie into your accounting and bookkeeping aspects if you choose a platform that will do that. And you can go back and take a look at your rent roll right on PayRent or Avail or Stessa or those types of platforms, and you can see it all right there. That's really handy. Before I started doing this, I was collecting checks, and so I had a ledger or a spreadsheet. And it just takes a lot of time to keep that up, whereas I can log in and take a look at who's paid and who hasn't right at a glance and get a rent roll. So the bottom line is no, don't use the peer-to-peer services, and you don't ever have to collect checks again. And didn't really get into it, but don't ever take cash either, because there are all kinds of potential security issues with that. People could say you were accepting cash when you hadn't. It's just not a great way to do it.